How are
Oh my
you?
gosh, I'm so good. It's so good to see your face.
I've been following you, so it's like I low-key stalk you.
Low key, low key. I mean, I follow you too, so I guess we're doing the same thing. Even though I
Low-key,
feel like you don't post that much.
I don't. So, first off, congratulations.
Thank
This is a really
you.
big deal. I'm assuming your next project is Jada from Detroit.
Yeah, well, I did an episode. I did a guest star episode earlier last year.
Okay.
So I think probably they're still in production with the strike and everything happening. I'm sure that like they just now started up. So not sure when to expect that, but it's coming.
It's exciting though. I'm excited for that show. It's very different. I think
Yes.
and I think for definitely like your resume, it's gonna be a good look. Your resume is already you did stage and now you're on TV. What was the transition like going from stage to TV?
I mean, it's something that I wanted to do for a while. Like I remember when I was on tour and I kept saying, okay, I'm here and I'm having the best time, but like I really want to do TV and film. Like that was my thing. And so after the pandemic happened, I got the opportunity to come up to New York and do Aladdin on Broadway. So while I was doing that, I kind of got the call for Kanan. As I mean, I had been auditioning for TV and film already, but this was my first like thing, right? So it was kind of like it was crazy. And like it just to be honest, like it wasn't the smoothest transition, just because there were definitely, I think, some people that weren't the most thrilled with the fact that like I was leaving the show, the stage show. But
Is
I was
it
happy. That was Raising Kanan was a dream show.
was
I
it
was
is
like,
it more so like people that don't want change or they just didn't want you personally to leave?
um, it was more so change. It was more so, I think, some shows are kind of like a revolving door. And so like once you get your groove with your cast, you're like, okay, now we can chill, now we can rest. And I think it was a thing of like, now Liv's leaving kind of thing. So I think it wasn't personal. I think it just came from that kind of like, we need a break at this show. You know what I mean?
I mean,
Um,
but at the end of the day, it's definitely your career, and opportunities do not always come around again.
correct.
So I'm glad you like have the foresight to be like, I'm sorry, but
Oh man, there's no way I would have said no. Y'all would have had to crucify me because listen, it was gonna happen. Like I was such a fan of the show before even getting the audition, before any of that. So it was like no brainer. I'll
I mean,
take the heat, but I gotta do what I gotta do.
that's real. It's so crazy. So, I get emails about shows and stuff. I said, Liv, real familiar.
I know you was like this little girl.
Okay, but no, I was super excited because I'm like, that is super what's up. We all in the power verse. I think they got us all hooked. So I was like, it's super dope to one be a part of a franchise because you never know what that franchise does. And then just to honestly be under 50 Cent's like universe in a sense, because one thing, I have a love hate with him. This man as the mindset, as somebody that holds people down, I think he's a very slept on like team to be under, like even if it's small, if it's big, how does it feel to be a part of one of his shows, one of the universes?
Well, you know what's crazy is that I didn't watch any of like OG Power, none of that until 2022, like probably 5 months before I got the audition.
Really?
Yes. 50 Cent, I've gotten the pleasure of meeting him only one time. But even when I did meet him just that one time for like as quick as it was, like we took a picture, it was like a day on set and he was kind of like in and there was like chaos, not chaos, but just kind of like, oh, he's here, he's here, he's here. And I was just kind of like, okay, oh my gosh, what do I do? But he was really, really kind to me. And like immediately off rip, he was like teasing me, like joking. Like that's the first thing that he did was a joke. So like getting to know him in person or to experience him even just for a second in person was a really great opportunity. And like you said, he takes care of his people.
Yeah.
And even just people in general that are within the community that he knows are talented. He's like, hey, if you aren't like feeling how you're being treated over here, come over here and I got you. And I feel like he
Mhm.
means that.
Girl, I study him. Like, I can't remember what it was, but somebody has sent me something. And then I've just kind of been hooked on this like 50 step rabbit hole because
Mhm.
I'm like, a lot of people have a lot to say about him, good or bad or whatever, but I'm looking at results and I'm like, let me start studying
Okay.
where he
The
moves.
results are there.
Whatever he puts as his laws of power, how he lives his life, it seems. Now, okay, so, of course, I'm a fan of the show. So I
Have
got
you watched this like first season, like when it came out, first season, and then, or did you like catch
um,
up a little bit?
I'm very much. There's only one show. I'm not gonna say there's only one show. I just can't get through it. But all
Okay.
first they've had me hooked since early Power. Okay, so your character seems somewhat similar to you in regards to the singing, dancing,
Yeah,
but
definitely had to do that in the audition. That was a major component of the audition process.
but it seems like
Uh-huh.
it might be a little bit different, like having to tap into a different type of personality that you don't necessarily have.
Teresa, you know me because we had a day on set just a couple days ago, and they were just talking about Iesha, and they said something. I said, "Wow, we are so different." And it's true. If you know me, I am so different. Like my actual personality is so different than that. But it's cool. We're actors. That's what we do.
Okay, look, I said, okay, now I know she acted. Okay,
I'm
because
so dead.
what was the challenge of getting into her character and turning like morphing into her?
The challenge. She's very, and I'm not to say I'm not sweet, but she is very, very, very sweet. And there were moments when I was reading the script where I was like, she's really not going to respond to somebody being negative and saying this to her. Like, because I know me, Cancer moon, Cancer Sun, Scorpio moon. I'm ready to, like, you know what I mean? So just like remembering, okay, as Liv, I might have this urge to want to maybe deliver this line this way, but then having to be like, but that's not her temperament exactly. I'm thinking of a very specific thing, but it hasn't aired yet, so I'm not gonna say it. But yeah, I would say that was it. But I do think that we are very similar in some ways, being that I tend to always try to see the good in people to a fault because sometimes, people can do something crazy to you or, and I feel like I'm just very forgiving. Like I might be fuming and upset about it for a little bit, but then for some reason, I don't even know why, I kind of always like, well, maybe, they didn't mean it like that, or just always trying to see the good. And that's like really how Iesha is, like always uplifting people and saying, like this is how you feel about yourself, but like this is what I see. This is so very different, but in that way, I will say that we are similar.
That's a good way, though. I'd actually become more that way. I'm pretty proud of myself. Okay, girl, growth,
Yep. Okay. I was
growth,
gonna say, 'cause I remember Sharifa.
lots of growth. Listen,
Very much
life
come
will
out.
teach you. On Raising Kanan, there's actually a lot of people that are Broadway, come from Broadway on there. Have you ever worked with any of them on the stage or outside of the show?
No, not on Raising Kanan. One of my close friends, though, from tour was on Ghost this past season. So it was still like Power Universe,
Uh-huh.
but we didn't, we didn't cross paths or anything. Obviously I had heard of the people and like knew their work. Like I remember in college, like being like, Patina Miller, oh my gosh, she's amazing. And so like that was a real like trippy feeling of like, wait, is this really happening? Like I remember learning about you. You know what I mean?
What's so funny about Patina? A lot of people, because a lot of people, have yet to be like really introduced to the stage. I remember I posted something and then that video of her singing, and they're like, "What?" And I'm like, "Yeah, she's like top tier."
The truth. Yeah. My sister the other day, the same thing. She texted me, said, Liv, wait, I didn't know Patina Miller was on Broadway. I said, she has a Tony. Like, yes, she is the queen of Broadway. Like, what are you talking about? While we were filming last season, she was doing Into the Woods on
Yeah,
Broadway.
for you. Like if you're looking at your timeline, would you want to go back to the stage and do any production?
It's funny that you say that. I literally just came from rehearsal today. I'm currently in a stage production right now.
Oh, can
Yeah,
you?
yeah.
Not yet.
Yeah. I'm doing it's called After Midnight. It's
Okay.
like a jazz show, kind of like 1920s, 30s Harlem. But we started rehearsal yesterday.
Okay.
So yeah, and that's at Paper Mill Playhouse, like right outside of New York. It's a one of the premier musical theater playhouses in the country. So it's kind of a big deal when you get to work at Paper Mill. It's my first time. So I'm excited.
So, Miss Big Deal.
No, they're big deal, not me.
Now you're very, very fresh. How was it with the strike?
Those were dark days, and I'm not even being funny. Like it was just, it felt forever, you know? And it was especially like irritating because we are not even like 3 years, we weren't even like a full 3 years, 2 years out of a pandemic. So for me, it was kind of like, okay, pandemic ended. All right, we going, we going, we going. And then I remember like around March of, or like February around in 2023, I started to notice like things really slowing down. And I was kind of like, okay, what is going on? Something is weird. You know, my team, my manager is like kind of explaining to me like what the industry might be gearing up for. And when that thing hit, first of all, when the writer strike hit,
Mm,
that was what that like pending doom was preparing for that writer strike because there's no auditions because people, you need writers to write what you're going to say, you know what I mean? So people on the outside who aren't involved in the industry might feel like, oh well, the strike only lasted, you know, a few months, but like no, we started to feel that in the beginning of the year.
mm,
So it was like February until November.
that's wild.
That's like the whole year, you know? And it was rough. It was hard financially, like emotionally, like your livelihood. And then you start to feel like if we ever go back, which obviously we will, but drama, right? We're actors. Like if we ever go back, like, am I even gonna still be able to do this? Like you start to question yourself. It was a lot. It was a lot, but you know, we
How'd you get
stayed
through it?
up, we prayed up, stayed prayed up. Seriously, stay prayed up. And I figured out ways to continue to be creative outside of that. So I did a lot of teaching. Um, I worked with kids. I, for the first time, taught at a public school teaching dance to kids. So it was always like artistically connected, but that's what I did. I had to do something that was going to still feed my creativity, or else I would have gone crazy.
What did you learn about yourself having to like become creative on just ways to just your livelihood?
I learned, I would say the biggest takeaway is that in some ways, sometimes I like to say, oh, if I wasn't doing this, I don't know what I would do. I can't do anything else. And because I wasn't able to do this, I had to lock in and figure out how to make it work. So I stretched myself. Like for example, like what I said with teaching, I've taught plenty of times before, but I never taught in a school. And so when you're teaching in a school, like now I'm writing lesson plans and like
Mm,
comparing it to like the New York state like required like curriculum and having to do all of these things. And that was like, to be honest, it was a lot. Like that was a lot harder. I didn't think that I could do it, to be honest. But when you don't have a choice, you know, the bills is gonna keep on coming. So you gotta lock in and you figure it out. So I'm learning to tell myself to stop saying I can't do something. You know what I mean? And hopefully you're not always in a situation where it's like desperate, like I have to do this, but just, you know, not having that kind of like negative self-talk on myself that, oh, I'm incapable of doing this thing. I'm not. No, I just need to learn it and I just need to figure it out. It's doable.
Spike Lee said it in the directors on directors with him and Bradley Cooper, and he was like, more people need to talk about their struggles because a lot of people that had made it, you know, were selling blood at one point just to get by. But
And listen,
you know, I think it's more so everybody likes the glam. I don't like glam stories. I want to know that there's a like me in my struggle, and I hear you, and I'm like, oh my God, you've been there before. Like, you know,
Yeah, exactly. That's why, you know what? I really liked Viola Davis's book because I felt like I don't know if you got it. Did you get to read it? Or at least part of it? Like I remember being like, oh my God, you know? Like, yeah, we want to hear the real stuff because that helps me when I'm feeling discouraged. We're in a strike and I'm like, damn, I should stop doing this, or like, damn, this isn't gonna work, or I got imposter syndrome, like, you know what I mean? Or, just going through life and then just to hear like those people that you really look up to, like, have had it the same, if not worse.
In 5 years, where do you see yourself?
Oh, I would love to have a nice little past budding career in film. I grew up watching a lot of films. So like ultimately I would love to do movies. I would love to just have like more things under my belt. Have worked with more people. I would love to, like, if I had the opportunity to work with Jordan Peele in some capacity. He's like my number one director, creative, that I would love to work with him. Donald Glover, like it. I used to have a list. It's somewhere on a computer of like people that I would really, really want to collab with. So like even if I got to do like 1% of that list, I would be happy.
Looking back at how far you have come, did you see yourself being here when you first started?
I I kind of I want to say yes. Like it would have been crazy if it didn't happen. And I'm saying that because I started when I was 3 years old. And I don't feel like God would give me a dream or the talent or the work ethic that I have just for me to get played ultimately. You know what I mean? I work really hard and I love what I do and I feel like I put the work in. So like to not be able to see it through would have been really, really sad. And I feel like people who know me kind of know that like I've always had kind of like tunnel vision when it came to my goals, you know? So I want to say yes. I will say though, I didn't, for the majority of my career, I didn't have a team. I didn't have an agent. I didn't have a manager. I just got them summer of 2022. So I kind of expected like, oh, it's probably gonna be rough. You know, these casting directors for TV, film, all that, they don't know me. It's gonna take some time. But the turnaround, the time for Kanan was crazy. Like, I mean, I think I signed with them the first day of August or something like that. And I got this audition before August was over and was on set by September,
So
which is like, hmm.
getting a team is what you're saying.
Oh yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. The team, it wouldn't have happened without my team. That's 1,000,000% for sure. And I knew that that was the next step. Like that was necessary. You don't really necessarily need a team to get on Broadway, to get on, you can do that. But if you do want to do TV and film, you ain't gonna find them auditions online. You gotta have somebody working for you, making calls that believes in you.
You have a mantra?
No, but I should. I
Yeah.
should.
Like what's
Right?
something you tell yourself, like, like me, I say if your dream doesn't scare you, it ain't big enough. Like that's, I mean, I think a lot of people use that, but I've been using that for like
Yeah.
years.
No, but that's real. That's
Like,
real. I would say, again, it might be cliche, but I do love the quote, how you do anything is how you do everything, because that's real. And did you know Reggie Ray?
I
I'm
knew,
sure you've heard.
I knew him through some Cards Dominique kid.
Yeah, one thing about Reggie is that like we got put through the ringer in his classes. Like there would be stuff that had nothing to do with the class, but he's testing you, making you do this thing, and you were just not seeing the correlation whatsoever. Why do you have me doing this? But when I look back now, and I'm really not even just saying this, like seriously, when I look back at like some of the things that were ridiculous that he had me doing, I'm like, that was the lesson. That
Mm.
was the lesson. For example, one time I remember, I'll keep it short. He asked me to go to the punch out and get him some pasta. I'm like, okay, I'll go to the punch out and get some pasta. Came back, and they used to, it was a lot of students. They used to be careless in there. Came back, and some of the sauce had spilled out into the bag, and he went off on me. He made me go back and forth to the punch out until it was right. And I was like, why? Like, first of all, you're my professor. Like, why am I doing this? This has nothing to do with the class. But it was just kind of a lesson on not doing things half-ass and like double checking to make sure everything is right the first time or the second time. No one should be telling you to do something a million times before you get it, because that later on in life, that's going to mess you up. You know what I mean? You
Girl, yes.
got a couple times to like get it together, but if you can't get it, then somebody else is going to do it. And guess what? He ultimately ended up having another student go get him the pasta, and they brought it back perfect, and he was like, see,
That's
see, don't half don't half ass. And like, I don't know, maybe some people won't see it as that, but like to
no,
me, that's
I
what
get
that
it.
moment. There was always a lesson in stuff that he had us doing. You know what I mean? So I feel like, yeah, how you do anything is how you do everything. If you do stuff half-ass and want, like, you can't really compartmentalize. You do something half-ass in this part of your life, whether you realize it or not, that's gonna be how you do other things, and people take notice of that, and that can block you from having opportunities that may have gone to you if you just had your shit together, or at least worked to be able to. You know what I mean?
You're speaking to me. I mean, I don't believe I had bats, but
Not I can't.
let me double check, making sure because that's real.
Yeah, that's a big one. And I'm definitely not, I have not mastered it, please. You know what I mean? But that's something that I'm really, really working on.
Yeah.
It's like correcting little tiny everyday things that you don't even think play a part in how you are and how you're seen, you know?
I'm definitely excited for your career. Like I really, really am. I think it's dope.
Yeah.
Oh, congratulations. I'm so excited for you.
Thank you. And congrats to you. I'm proud of you.